Hello and welcome into the Holler Podcast, Season 2, Episode 15. I'm your host, Stephen Borbell, driver of the number 2 Ford Mustang for Next Level Motorsports. I'm joined by Carl, who's here every single week. He works hard to be here every single week. And as well as Richard, who we missed last week. But no, thank you for being here, Richard. How are you doing?
I'm just acting like I'm not here since, Carl's always here.
I mean, I don't think Carl has missed a show.
I have gone 100%, and I almost was gonna miss at least the start of this one, but things got rearranged, so I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah, my work causes me to miss, so it sucks. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather miss a podcast episode than schedule something for a Tuesday night.
That's completely understandable.
But no, I'm doing good. Been a kind of a chill day. Not really much going on, so just was throwing some laps down at Roval, trying to get ready for next week. But
You and everyone else, it seems like. Carl, how are you doing this week?
Sulking.
I'm existing. My internal fury has fueled me through this week. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's some fair drama that we're gonna dive into a little bit in here. And obviously, quick shout out. I see Rev is here in chat, Mason is here in chat, and I think I see a first time winner in chat too, Dustin Stalling. So thank y'all for
Spend time with their wife and baby.
Well, exactly. First time winner at the BRB Butt Kicker Cup Series, but second time father
There
to
we
a
go.
newborn girl in the last 24 hours or so. So, gotta give a shout out to the zero of Dustin Stallings. He's had one heck of a week. Good job, Dustin, and glad you're here with us tonight.
Yeah, and congratulations to you and your wife, and hope y'all are staying busy, as I'm sure you are at this time. But no, thank y'all all for tuning in. I mean, 9 viewers currently at the beginning of the podcast. I think that might be a new record for us. So we appreciate y'all tuning in.
Huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. We at the end of the day, we make this podcast for our drivers and for people in the league. So if y'all are actually here, and Pit Stop TV is in here too.
Pit Stop.
Look
Huge
at
shout out
that.
to Pit Stop,
Huge
man.
shout
You guys
out to
put
Pit
on
Stop
a heck of
TV.
a show for us on Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for coming by.
Yes, thank y'all. Pit Stop TV is the greatest broadcast I think we've ever had, by far, and wouldn't be where we are without them. That's for sure. But with
Gotta give a huge shout out to Andrew. He Ironman the
man.
broadcast Tuesday solo with the production and everything.
and killed it.
He killed it. I mean, it wasn't a boring part of the race. He made everything just run really well. He was able to just everything, all the action. He did such a great job doing that himself. And just a huge thank you to Andrew there and Pit Stop TV as a whole.
I guess we're on 2 monitors. I'm glad that we're up there with the NFL. Honestly,
I know,
the
right?
fact that you can put us on that pedestal is a huge shout out. So thank
We are
you
being
there.
watched next to Thursday Night Football. Let's
Yeah,
go.
This is awesome stuff.
Awesome. But no, and Jared as well. Again, thank you all for being in here this early on. And without further ado, this past week we had the Not Beer 250 at Las Vegas, the first chase race out of 5 races for the chase for the Butt Kicker Cup. We'll get into a little bit of the drama, but first of all, big shout out to our newest father, and that's the wrong one. Our newest father. Oh my, what is going on?
Please hold. We are experiencing technical
There it is.
difficulties.
No, Steven
That's
is
not
experiencing
it.
technical
That's not
difficulties.
it. Nope.
I promise we're not professional. I mean, we are professionals.
So, I don't.
At least Dustin had
There
to
it
be making,
is.
not
There it
Steven.
is. There it is. Big shout out to Dustin Stallings winning his first race in the BRB Racing League and the Butt Kicker Cup Series. Had a quick conversation with Dustin after the race, and it was a long time coming for him. I think we all knew it soon after he joined last season at Charlotte. We knew he was fast. He had some internet issues that caused him a lot of good finishes a lot of the time. And it was really good to see him pull through. He won it fair and square on the long run. And Andrew pulled me up into to whatever after winning the first stage into an interview during the broadcast and said, "Which two drivers are you looking out for?" And I told him Johnny and Dustin. And what do you know? They came back and they made me eat my own words and really
They
made
were
me fight
listening.
for it. They were probably listening. But no, Dustin ran a great race. He got into a couple of my teammates, myself included. But you know, at the end of the day, he stuck it out. He kept his tires under him on that long run to the end and got his first win. So very happy for him, and it's a special win for him and a special week. So it couldn't have come at a better time.
Well, and during the interview, as his motor was blowing after the burnouts him and the whole team was doing, you could hear in his voice he was really, really emotional, and Rev is right. He even had an EOL after one of those incidents, Stephen, that you were mentioning. So he came from the back to win that race. I think Dustin's emotion, the way he was able to just try to absorb everything that was happening at once. Yes, we did this as a hobby. This is a pastime, the virtual cars, but the emotions are real. The feelings are real, and just winning a race. We mentioned it's almost every episode. I feel like there's just a ton of talent. There are how many drivers with a win? I mean, half the field almost, or at least a third of the field has a win. So Dustin being able to win, and as being a chase driver, winning the first race of the chase, and just everything is just good to see, and also good to hear that emotion, to see how much it means to us still doing this.
And I mean, shoot, I definitely know what the emotion is when it comes to winning a race. I mean, my first race that I won in the 2 years that I've been back was Eldora last season, and I mean, it was honestly, I mean, the same way for Dustin's Poetic is just like, I'm the one that kind of vouched for Eldora to be a track because I figured the cars would handle well there, and they did. So I definitely get the emotion, and his is just tenfold more because he had a baby. I mean, shoot, you win a race in the girl dad's paint scheme also, and then you go have a kid the next day. Like that's perfect. You couldn't have scripted that any better. Like NASCAR, learn lessons.
It was definitely great. It wasn't, or it was a little surprising, I think, at first. I didn't think of Dustin as winning this race. I thought Johnny was going to go away. I mean, it's a mile and a half. Johnny, we know how great he has been on mile and a halves. But when it came down to tire saving, you throw Dustin in that conversation of one of the best tire savers I think that we have in our league. And he made it work. It was awesome to see. And yeah, it definitely helped him in the chase. That's for certain. Because he came away
from like eighth.
Well,
from eighth to first.
Not first, but he's up there in the conversation of contenders, I guess you can say at this point. There actually is a long list of contenders, I would still argue, more so than typically after the first chase race. The standings are a little bit close, and we'll get into that. But real quick, the race rundown of the top 10 being Dustin Stallings, Johnny Wood Jr., myself, Dakota Camper, Adam Buzzio, Jared Hughes, Evan Patinko, Zachary King, Cody Dorsey, and William Maddox round out your top 10. But yeah, Dustin Stallings getting 18 bonus points. So great stage finishes from him, and then capping it off with a win, which gives you an extra 5 bonus points as well. Well, not bonus points, but 5 more points over second place for finishing position. So that is really beneficial as well. No, big run. Give a shout out to Zachary King. I didn't really see him most of the race just because I was more so up front than I typically am. Not to brag, but it was just what was happening.
Subtle brag.
It was a subtle brag, but
No, you had a hell of a good race, man. Like it was really
track fits
impressive
me.
to see how you could drive that car at that track. It'd be as fast as you were while also saving tires. Because like I figured out how to save tires really well, and I thought I had pretty decent pace. But it's just like after I'd get up to you, I caught up to you a little bit, but then just after about 4 or 5 laps, it's just like you just walked away. I was like, there's nothing else I can do. It was wild to see because the cars were loose as crap in the late runs, and I was like, I don't understand how Steven's still driving this car controllably and going fast. It blew my mind, and you did phenomenal.
Well, thank you for saying that. No, Vegas has just been one of those tracks. I think I also brought it up after winning the stage. It's just one of those tracks that fits my style. Of as the tires wear, it gets looser, and I much more prefer a loose setup or a loose car than a tight car on the long run. And I think it just played to my style better and worked out that way. But yeah, back to Zach King. I wanted to give him a shout out for a top 10. A good run for him. He was actually, I want to say he was battling for a top 5 position at times. And I don't know if any incidents occurred or anything like that along the way, but at the end of the day, it was a good run for him. So
With who?
Zach King.
Oh, I mean.
Sorry, I was just looking at,
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, besides when he wrecked Mason in what, lap 8?
9.
Lap 8 or 9? Like, he wrecked Mason pretty bad, but other than
oh, and
that,
Carl, you got involved in that too, didn't you?
Yep.
Well, that's
Yes, Carl
not
did.
the only incident you got
We'll
involved.
get there.
Let's tease a little. Let's kind of build into that.
And yes, Sundance Pizza is from Arizona, Wickenburg, Arizona, just about 45 minutes to an hour north of Phoenix metro area. If you ever go back, you need to try them.
And don't forget to mention the BRB Racing League, because I believe they'll give you a free pizza. I'm not speaking for them totally, but I'm sure they'll give you a discount at the very least.
Call up Gavin. He'll hook you up.
They're wonderful people, and
They are. His grandparents own that
Oh,
shop,
man.
and they are just amazing.
salt of the
people.
earth. They're amazing. But yeah, no, Zach might have had some incidents. I'm not familiar with every incident that was involved in the race. But at the end of the day, it's one of his first top 10s, if I'm not mistaken.
Close. Yeah, he's usually disconnected.
Well, yeah,
By the
that's
end,
true.
I mean, not to, but yeah, he did really good. He had a lot of speed. I mean, he even got interviewed in the middle of the race by the
Did he?
broadcasting, and they were impressed. Yeah, they were impressed with his speed that he had. So.
Yeah, his first top 10 of this season, at least.
Yep, that is confirmed. First top 10 for Zach King, and at Vegas of all places, a really tough track. So good on Zach King. He's been putting in the laps, and he wasn't blinking as bad, Richard, these past couple of nights. So that's another good foot in the direction that he wants to be in to reduce that. There are some blinks still, but if you can get those ironed out, it could be interesting to see Zach King come season 3.
Yeah, most definitely. And that top 10, you got, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? It looks like we had 6 chase drivers finish in the top 10. Missing Mason Hausman in 14th, Richard Wolsifer 16th, Carl Pooler 17th, and Brendan Maddox 18th. Take me through y'all's race, and y'all got really good stage points. You, Carl, and Richard. Carl, there was a time, I think you finished second stage 1. Am I right? Mm-hmm. I saw you coming, and I was like, Carl, what? I was really happy to see you running up there and get those stage points. But no, take me through y'all's race.
Yeah, as mentioned earlier, Zach King made contact with Mason Hausman, lap 9, going into turn of 1. Very similar to the incident the week before between Maddox and myself. So it was kind of weird that it happened to us at those times, both almost in the same corner. But that sent Mason into the wall, and I had nowhere to go because I was right behind it. That put me into the wall, and then everyone stacked up behind because I think I was running for 9th or something like that, and we had 21, 22 cars, another really good-sized field come Tuesday night, and half the field was behind us, and I got kind of run over. So had to use my faster pair. Knew it was going to be tough, but apparently I didn't have as big of an issue with track position because when I started 13th on that green flag, like you said, I had to take tires because I pretty much skidded all the way. So I had to take tires early. And that kind of helped me go from 13th to second place to finish that stage, like you mentioned. And then I actually did okay. I led a lap. I stayed out on strategy. And honestly, I stayed on strategy earlier for the same reason Adam did. I was short a set of tires from that first wreck, so I wanted to save it for later on. So that's why I kind of took that and got another bonus point there. And then finished 5th in stage 2, so I did all right. And I was learning a lot. I learned a lot Monday, was able to kind of grasp how the car was going to handle and then apply that Tuesday as the stages went on, as the track kind of cooled down. I learned a little bit more about the grip, and I was able to kind of push it a little harder. And then 13 laps to go, got loose coming out of 2, and I could feel it even before I got loose. And I'm screaming on the radio because Mason is right on my quarter panel. I'm like, hey Mason, go low, go low, go low. I'm getting loose, go low. And I try to chase it up the track so he stays out of me. But that didn't quite work. Next thing I know, got kind of pushed into the wall, and with my fast repair being taken before lap 10 again for 2 weeks in a row, it had nothing left. So unfortunately, ended my night.
That is unfortunate. And Richard, from your angle, what did you gather from that incident?
Oh my God, if I can recall, I saw the smoke from Carl getting loose, and I saw Mason there. And then I saw them come together. I saw Carl swing out, or dart outside. That's where his car darted to, and then Mason spun sideways and was going inside. And I was like, I'm gonna chase Mason's car down the track because that's gonna give me the most room if Carl went high. And next thing I know, in my corner of my vision, here's Carl's car coming all the way down the track. So it's not much that I did see from that, because I wasn't that close to them. I was actually decently far back, so I had time to dodge them. But I mean, the way that the cautions were happening, I had to just drive through it. There was no like slow down and hope the caution came out kind of thing, because that track was annoying with that. But yeah, there wasn't really much that I saw from that far back, besides it just looked like they were way too close to each other and Carl was just to get loose. I thought it was just Carl loose at first, and then it's just, it is what it is. But then it just looked like Mason just didn't get off him. So, but that's all I saw from that far back.
And you and I think we looked at it after the race, and I was like, I think you made the right decision of where you went, of trying to avoid the wreck, but it just didn't work out. It's just one of those instances. It was very unfortunate. But once I had heard that it was the 3 Limitless guys involved, I'm sorry, but I thought it was very comical at the time. Obviously, I understood. I'm sure there's a lot of frustration going on, and I'm glad I wasn't in y'all's chat at the time, because I'm sure it was not the most pleasant place to be.
No, it was not.
But I mean, because I could just imagine if we were doing something in our team and we got all in a wreck together, we wouldn't say anything probably for the rest of the race. But hearing that as a competitor of y'all, at the end of the day, y'all are my competitors or our team's competitors, and hearing something bad happen to y'all, it was kind of funny at the time. More so because I know you very well. It was just funny, but we can laugh about it now, right?
What does that mean, Steven?
And I watched the broadcast back, and Sam Dyer, he's raced with us. He's been a broadcaster for Freaky Fast, and he comes out and says,
No, don't give him the spotlight. Forget that guy.
Well, this kind of goes into my story. He says, typical Limitless, and I yes, Rev, I love the Star Wars reference there. Absolutely, Han Solo. But I wanted to be mad, even more mad at that, but it's hard to be mad at the truth. And it's kind of like you said, Steven, it's kind of comical. And unfortunately, you only get a first time, a one time and a first impression. And we've, as an organization, not made the greatest impression. And we've been trying to recover from that, and just seeing that happen, go through that. It's just frustrating. Yes, it's comical for everyone else and everything, but trying to build a better reputation, tried to avoid stuff like that, and it's frustrating when that happens. Now we're no strangers to 2 cars, but 3 cars in one straightaway Like, again, you can't script that. It's 3 teammate cars that went straight away, and it is comical, but I'm tired of being the punchline of the joke. So it's very frustrating seeing that happen, and you're at least me personally, trying to take on a more team ideology and be more focused on that, and just something like that happens. It's unfortunate.
It was definitely unfortunate, and it's not funny. It was just, I guess, in the moment. It was just like the irony of all getting together and knowing the personalities that were involved in the accident together. It was just a clash of everything. Was rather comical. It is unfortunate that there was no caution because honestly, if anything's a caution, that's a caution in my eyes.
That should have been 100% a caution.
Yeah.
Like, it's so irritating.
But in iRacing's logic, unfortunately, anything below that white line, or at least carries below the white line, is not a caution. Yeah, that was a tough hit for sure.
Yeah, because I was having a good race. Like, how did I finish? 3rd in the first stage, 4th in the second stage, I think, something like that. And I was running up there in top 5 for the end of the race. There, I just got loose one time and up in the wall, and it pissed the tires off. And then I was slowly trying to recover. I felt like I was gaining a little bit on everybody. But yeah, when that happened, I just, like you said, like you agreed with me. I took probably the best path that I probably could have taken in that situation. It's just unfortunate that Carl's car came down the track as quick as it did.
Yeah.
And it just, I think that's the first time I yelled at Carl. And it was, I felt bad. Like, after the race, I messaged, I was like, dude, I'm so sorry I blew up on you like that. But, like, give me some grace on that, because that
it was the most ridiculous thing, because when he turned me when I got turned into the wall, it snapped the toe link and it sent me down, and I was trying anything to keep spinning the car, and there's just was no response. And I was obviously trying to hit the brake. My left front's locking up. I'm trailing smoke, and the right front's just kind of dangling there, just to make matters worse. But it was frustrating. And Richard, to go on that, you had 16 bonus points. I had 17 bonus points. Good stage finishes. We both led a lap. And that just compounds how the situation developed on that lap, because we had great, as a team, a great track record for both the state. Mason had that incident. He had to recover because he had to tow. He blew his engine. But he got on the lead lap, and he got still 6 bonus points. He was able to get up there. And as a team, the first race in the chase, we're all looking for a solid race, and we had it. And Richard was right. He was doing well. I was doing well. Like you said, Steven, we were racing in the top 5 all night long.
Yeah.
And I felt like we had 13 laps to go. I had saved just a little bit. I think I could have had a podium there. I really do. And to have it end like that, a good night, especially into the chase. And we'll get into this later, but with the chase and everything going on, the first round, it just hurts that much worse.
Yeah, and like Carl and I were talking about, like we've talked multiple times since Tuesday about it. It's just like for Carl and I, we really needed that good run at Vegas, because we know going into Roval, that is not going to be our strong suit at all. Like, I can run other road courses well. The Roval is just like, you want to control your car? No, sorry, you're going to drive this car uncontrolled the entire time around this track. So it's a very difficult track to drive, and I love having as many drivers as we have now, and I'm hoping we keep getting more, and we have a very good field an entire season. But being that we had that many drivers, that hurt the points even more. It was just like, God dang it, man.
It's good though. It creates, like, your bad days are really bad days now. Like,
yeah, there's a really bad timing of those bad days.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, I am glad we have the number of drivers we had. But, like, since we're so used to, like, if you have a bad day, it's like, well, at least I had a good stage day. Now it's just like, God, that point difference is rough.
You definitely want to, finish out, but not on top of the Roval. Then we have Talladega, which we know Talladega is a super speedway, and then Martinsville.
I'm taking Denny Hamlin's strategy.
Please don't.
I'm gonna ride in 36 the whole race, and then stay in 36, and then stay in 36, and then
you better run his pace.
Get wrecked in the last lap.
But there's Talladega, there's Martinsville. That's another one where breaking points vary.
Oh, God.
Tempers run short. It gets crazier.
A lot of butthurt feelings and
Exactly. And then we finished the season at Charlotte, and there's a lot of things that can happen to Charlotte with all those feelings after this stretch of races. So, and it's already, the tension's already building. So there's no guarantee, but I feel like with those out of the top 5 right now are really going to be hard pressed to make any kind of push these next 4 races.
well, and at the end of the day, I believe you, Carl and Richard, I know we'll get into the standings just momentarily, but I believe y'all technically both had net positive days in points wise, while you didn't cash in on one. Yeah, you didn't cash in on positions or get the finish you had hoped. At the end of the day, you still did make up ground in a roundabout way. But like I said, we'll get into that. Before we get into that, though, I do want to go over Meatball of the Weeks. Speaking of, if it wants to work.
1 week, I'm excited for it.
Oh goodness, that is
Wow!
that is a meatball.
What is going on right now?
That is one spice and meatball.
It's getting there. I don't know
Well,
why.
I feel prioritized. I'm the overlay while Steven's the underlay. How special.
There you go.
All right.
Meatball of the week.
I won't normally ask to start, but I'm going to ask to start this one.
Please feel free.
Mason, I'm just going to straight call you out for it now. And I've talked to him on the side, and I told him, I was like, dude, you're going to have to roll with the punches on this one for a while. I did. I hate saying that about a teammate or whatnot, but that was probably one of the biggest bonehead moves I think I've seen in a while. I think everyone's pretty much cleaned up a lot of their racing. I mean, everyone has their moves, but that one was wild. Like going back and rewatching it. I mean, at first I thought it was just because Carl got loose, and then Mason just, I don't know, just the typical, someone gets loose and collects another person kind of stuff. That's what I thought at first. But when I went back and watched it, I mean, Carl got loose. I saw that, but like, even listening to Mason's car, just listening to barely get off the gas, and there was no attempt to kind of turn down away from him or even get in the brakes to not hit him. Like, and not even just for that situation, the fact that it took out all 3 of us Limitless drivers. Like, an entire team because of that. So yeah, he's got to have my meatball for the week on that one. Like I said, Mason, it's just, you're going to have to roll the punches on this one for a while, dude. You got to take it up on the chin and keep rolling. So, but it really sucked that it took all 3 of us out of really good finishes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off of that, and I was thinking I could go Dustin because he did get into Adam. However, in a similar move to Mason and Carl's incident, towards the end of the race, maybe on the last 7 laps or so, when Dustin and I were racing for the lead, I had a slip up because I'm racing my tires off basically, and I got loose on his outside, and he noticed it and backed off and didn't push the issue and get into me and turn me, and I thanked him for that. It was kind of a similar situation Mason was in, but Dustin did the very respectable thing and gave me plenty of room and allowed me to catch myself. So I'm not going to give it to Dustin. I'm going to give it the whole team of Limitless. Limitless Esports trifecta of meatballs this week from me.
That's going to be our weekly flag this week, Richard. We got to hang it up. Limitless meatball.
That's an easy way out meatball of the week, Carl. You can't do that.
I can. I just did.
I was an innocent bystander.
You were, but just because you were involved, you were still involved. Oh, I could give it to you, Richard, if I really wanted to, because at the end of stage 2, when you got loose and came up into me and put me into the wall too.
Oh, I was waiting for that. Oh,
yeah.
And then here comes Steven at the end of stage 2, coming up from like 6th spot, and I'm like, oh no, don't spin him out in front of me, please, no.
We're gonna detour a little bit here on that situation. I went back and rewatched it.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I tried to dive underneath
Yeah.
the stalling. Okay, and I got down in the apron, and I did slide up in front of you because the car was getting tight. And you got into my rear end, which
I had a run and a half.
Hold on, I get that. All right, and it got me loose, and I was trying to collect the car so I don't spin out, and I got into your door. you know, and like Rev said, is you could have gone on the brakes too. And as your response was, well, it's the end of the stage. I'm not going to do that. That's my response too, man. I'm not going to just.
My
not
thing
let
is
you
keep your
buy me.
car on the bottom is all I
The
expected.
car got tight.
The car got tight because you hit the apron.
It still got tight.
It didn't get tight.
It still got tight.
It did. You bobbled.
Arrow tight. This is an arrow tight situation.
Yes,
No, it wasn't
Jared.
tight.
Jared says, just take the cool sticker, Richard. Please just take it. You messed up. Own up to it.
Oh man. So I guess that leaves mine. I'm gonna do the 51 of Zachary King, lap 9, getting taken out again before the first 10 laps have been going on. Had to use my fast repair. Like, honestly, if I had my fast repair, if that first wreck didn't happen, I still don't think I would have been as mad, because I could have driven up and still finished with the top 10, gotten those stage points, been fine. But no, my fast repair was already gone. And Zach King, you did that to me. You started that whole thing. So Zach King, you get my meatball of the week, buddy.
And Carl, now that you're mentioning that, I remember in the race after the first caution came out, you saying something like, "Oh, at least it happened until, or it didn't. I didn't get wrecked until lap 9 this week, or something like that."
Yeah.
I completely had forgotten about that. Oh, that's tragic. But yeah, all right. Well, meatball is the week. Like Rev says, if you're the meatball of the week, send him your address if you're okay with it, and he will send you a meatball of the week sticker. And you can put it on your rig, you can put it on your desk at work, you can put it on your forehead, you can put it wherever you want. I do not care. But with that out of the way, we can move into the standings. That's not the standings. That's the standings. I have things labeled so incorrectly on here. It's kind of sad. It's kind of like how we were talking about earlier in the week. I think Adam brought up, how do we do our paints? If I put up a PSD file right now, you would see all my layers, and it just says layer 35, layer 36, layer 37, layer 38, layer 38 copy, layer 39. And it's just
Oh
like,
my god. Oh, you.
Yeah.
Like an
But
OCD
we should
person's so mad.
negotiate out of this. This is a bad situation.
Oh,
But yeah, that-
guys, never ask Steven to do your paints because
hey, they turn out well. It's just
They
the
do.
method
You
to my
have
madness.
amazing.
But
Yes.
Your paints do turn out really well.
well, thank you. But yeah, our standings, like I said, going into this week, Mason had a 20-point lead over Adam, who was second at the time. And based off that, you can see how much things have changed and gotten a lot tighter. With that, Johnny Wood Jr. had an amazing race, stage-wise and finish. Jumps Mason and is now your point leader with 4 races to go in the chase. He leads Mason Houseman by 3 points, and 3 points is absolutely nothing. They could be tied for all we care. But yeah, Mason Houseman second, 3 points behind. Dustin Stallings, with his run and his first one of the season, shrinks his deficit down to only 10 points behind Johnny Wood Jr. Myself down to 15. Adam Buzzio 17. Richard Wolsifer 26. Carl, yourself at 30. Evan Patinko 31, Jared Hughes 32, and then you have Brendan Maddox at 52 back. So you have 9 guys within 32 points. That's the point I would say you can get back in 1 week. Brendan, you technically could, most likely not. But you have 9 guys within 1 race points of each other. I didn't expect that going after Vegas. I thought we were really going to get some separation between some of the top guys and some of the bottom guys, honestly, at the end of the day. And we just got a really squished together points now.
Well, I was watching the broadcast, and I think I looked at both stages, and there were no fewer than 7 chase drivers in the top 10 in both stages. And that just goes to show, yes, there might have been a little bit of a stage point bias there, but now the cream is rising to the top. The chase drivers who have been finishing up there, been up there, getting those points are still up there. So it wasn't a fluke. This is the reason that those drivers are in the chase, and I think that's another contributing factor. With these next couple races, it could change. The Roval coming up, it's a road course. You mentioned a lot of drivers are getting some drive time in. I know Adam and Jared are putting in. Adam just put in a sub 121. It looks like he's a 120.9.
Watch out.
So Adam is already a favorite for this race. Mason, I think, put in a 121.2 earlier.
I think
Jared,
he
I think,
reached
was
a 119 on a very hot lap. But
Okay,
again,
so-
is that sustainable? I don't know.
It's so. I mean, it's gonna get interesting. Those guys have been up there all race long. Johnny Wood, we saw how he did at the street courses in Chicago. So we know there could be a very, very spicy battle between Johnny Wood and Mason Houseman. Add in a little kick of Adam Buzzio, and you got yourself a recipe for a disaster. This could be very, very interesting.
Disaster or just a phenomenal race?
I think it'll be phenomenal for the winner. Disaster for a few other people.
Well, the Roval tends to be more of disaster than I think entertainment for road course value. When we had Chicago earlier in the season, it was one of the greatest road course actual races for entertainment that I have seen in a while. In iRacing, that is.
I'm kind of glad I wrecked out and called that.
Yeah,
also.
you did a tremendous job hopping in and getting a cover of the broadcast at the time. And we had a battle of 4 or 5 guys for the lead or the lead group-ish kind of deal. And they stayed around each other and they were battling back and forth. And Chicago allowed that to happen with the tight corridors and all. With Charlotte, it's a little bit different. I think you have a little bit more aggressive brake zones at times with the chicane on the back stretch and the front stretch included, as well as more bumps in unexpected areas, which just leads to chaos. You could, especially in that front stretch chicane, I know coming out of 4, it's really tough to get it consistent braking down and straight. Before you go into the chicane, it's really easy to clip the grass and get turned. Or I think we saw it, was it Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr.?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that is a very, very easy thing to happen in the sim. So I don't know if we're going to have as clean racing in that regard, but at the end
Real
of the
quick, Andrew, do we get a discount for that comment, by the way? Roval is not best track.
it's a fun track.
It is
It's
a wild
challenging.
track.
It's a tricky track.
It is a very, very tricky track.
I would much rather go to the Roval than Sonoma.
Oh
Okay, I could
no,
agree with you there.
no,
So-
I like Sonoma more.
All right, you're a Martin Truex fan. That's not fair.
I feel like the you can race a little harder on Sonoma. There's a little more raciness to it. You can pass a little bit better, or at least get side by side. The Roval I feel like is very narrow, especially like on TV. It looks like you can get 2 or 3 cars there, but if you're driving in these things and up and down the bumps and everything, you like feel like you have a car and a half. There's no room for 2 cars, so that gets very, very tough. I would rather race Sonoma than the Roval.
Anything Charlotte is good.
You bring up
The
a
dirt
good
track
point,
at Charlotte
Carl.
is good though.
You bring up a good point, Carl. Of it is pretty one-laned through most of the road course, with I think exception of the fact what in real life it's called like the Goodies Heartburn turn. Turn 1, you can dive bomb in it, especially on a restart, and then both chicanes are 2 big passing zones. Besides that, that infield portion of the track is very difficult to pass anyone. You're really just riding behind someone until you can get onto the NASCAR turns. It's going to be very important to qualify well. That's for sure. But again, we'll touch into this in a bit. But yeah, into their standings. Just wanted to go over. Everyone's really close. Anything can happen. Yeah, that's about it there.
Yeah, this championship is still wide open, and it's like
No clue.
it has been this close all season, basically. Like from the race for the win between Mason and Adam, the middle of the chase points during the regular season was so close, and then also for that 10th place and final, transfer spot. I mean, just to be able to carry that kind of excitement and momentum throughout the field into the chase and continue it in race number 1. It's fantastic to see And I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I love what we are building here at BRB.
Oh, I couldn't agree anymore.
Well, and the battles we're getting. I mean, you have comers and goers. Vegas was an absolute A class of comers and goers. You could see who was getting loose, who was burning their tires up. Andrew Tenold, he would come up. I think he was the 45. He would come up through the field, but you give him 10, 15 laps, he started getting loose. He would really struggle with that car. And then, like you said, Dustin Stallings, yourself, Steven, you could save. It was a great track, and you saw some really good side-by-side racing. There was a couple parts where I was struggling, and just like I'm holding my breath because I don't want to mess up. I'm gathering my car or trying to make this pass. So it was fun. It really was a overall fun race, just not the result I think Richard and I were looking for.
Unfortunately, it shakes up like that. And the 45, man, he was giving me troubles during that second stage. He was. Oh, I was so angry. I was like, where did this guy come from?
It was funny. Carl, like over the radio, because Carl and I were running like right next to each other all race. Like that was our plan. We're just gonna ride it out, save tires, make moves near the end of the stages in the race. Like that was our goal. That was our plan. And then over to Carl on Discord, he was like, hey, watch out, Andrew's coming up really fast. I'm like, I don't care, let him. Like, if he's coming up that quick, he's going to burn his stuff up, and we'll just drive on by him later. And then he got up next to you, Steven. I'm like, oh, yes, race Steven hard, please. Let him burn his stuff up. Come on.
Well, and there were times I was just like, I'm going to let him go.
Fall like a rock.
I was like, I'm going to let him go. I'm not going to race him right now. But then it was like, it felt like, I don't know if it was just like the draft effect, but when he got in front of me, then I'm like, why is he slowing me down now? Like, I'm just going to go around him. And then we'd get side by side again. And yeah, but no, it was fun racing with them for a while. But frustrating in the moment for sure.
I bet.
A non-chase driver battling up there was very frustrating, but they have every right to do so. So I can't knock them for it.
Yeah, I get that, man. I like right now as a chase driver, I just look at everybody's like, you're not a chase driver, leave me alone.
Right.
Get away from me. But at the same time, it's like I can't say that because it's like,
no,
you paid to be here, you're racing with us, you want to race, you have every
you want to
right
win
to still race and win. Like I totally get it because I'd do the same thing. So it is frustrating for sure. I totally understand what you're meaning.
It was not what I expected at that point, but with that, we can go into next week's race unless y'all want to cover anything else real quick.
Well, I will say this with those drivers, because Andrew's he's a newer driver. So seeing what he's doing now, like even if it's in the chase, like whatever, you're still racing. Like again, that's just more excitement that I have for season 3. Like season 3 is going to be a wild season to watch with the competitiveness between the field.
And last week we went over our I guess final standings predictions that we had at the beginning of the season. Next season when we do that,
I'm not going to be able to make a list.
Oh, we did really good this season so far, but I mean,
I think you guys were 8 and I was 9,
something like that. But we had, I mean, what did we have drivers wise? Close to 20-ish drivers at the beginning of the season. Like it was a relatively easy list to make, I feel like at the time. Next season's list, if this roster remains what it is, I'd be shocked if any of us can even get more than half correct. So yeah, it definitely makes me excited for the future.
Well, I mean that'll be interesting because there's 4 more races left, and I know now there's already a couple of drivers I'm keeping an eye on. You know, the 24 Isaiah Sutherland. He's listening. I got to give him a shout out. Also, while I'm thinking about that, Isaiah, I do want to apologize for getting into you at 3. It was lap 116. Now he got loose. And if you want to watch how you get off a car when they're spinning out, you watch for lap 116. Because I was able to let Isaiah save it. So heads up, but Isaiah, I do apologize for that. I just wanted to apologize. But you have Isaiah Sutherland, Andrew Tennell with the short run speed. Dakota Camper, he finished 4th.
Yep.
He qualified 6th. He didn't get any stage points. He tried some off-putting strategy, but he only finished 1.7 seconds off the lead. He was right on that tail end. So Dakota Camper doing really well this season. So I'm already watching out for drivers in my mirror and in front of me. I think maybe next season may not be as difficult to plan as we may think.
Yeah, I hope not. And that schedule is getting closer and closer to being finalized as we speak. I actually went through today and did a draft of everything in order. I haven't shared it with the rest of the admin team yet.
You should.
I will at some point, I promise. But
Oh, but while we're on that though, the post that we put out to the league to ask you guys, we had a choice between an international circuit and a street course, Long Beach, for our second road course of the season. International circuit won. So, few of us have already done some testing of some tracks. We have some ideas, and we cannot wait to unveil what that track's going to be for season 3. But we still got to get through season 2.
yes, still gotta get through season 2, but we are still planning at the same time and hope to have that all finalized very soon and shared out as soon as possible because actually I think we are sitting at exactly 2 months out from the opening of season 3. 2 months to the day. I believe it's November 12th is what we're aiming for. Yeah. So yeah, we are sitting 2 months out.
Holy cow.
So it's gonna come. It's gonna be here before we even know it.
Quick.
So we are doing our end to get everything set up and ready financially, broadcast wise, sponsorship wise, standings or schedule wise, everything on the back end to make sure that we're set up for it. And that news will come out as soon as we have it.
It's Sam is saying Fuji. You know, Sam, Fuji would be an all right one. I put in fourth Suzuka. I think Suzuka would be another really fun course for those cars. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if they were joking or half joking. I know some people said Nürburgring, maybe the GP circuit. So
I think that was
there's a
joking.
That was a joke.
I was 100% joking.
Well, again, see, there's Dustin.
Yeah.
I just want to put people off left foot there, so you never know where we're coming from. But there's definitely a lot of discussion going on about this course.
Rev is definitely like, no.
The international scene is where I defer to the rest of our great admin team of y'all decide that. I have no idea.
Hey, you're coming to the Rolex 24 with me this year. You're going to get into IMSA and WRT. You're going to know.
Daytona Road is not international. I don't know anything about
No,
international
but you're
courses
gonna
currently.
get into IMSA and sport car racing. You're going to watch
we'll
it on
see.
Saturdays and Sundays with me and Carl.
We'll see. We'll see if my wife lets me
Fuji
watch
this
more
weekend.
racing.
6 hours of Fuji this weekend. It's good as time as any.
Wait, 6 hours of Fuji is this weekend?
Yeah.
So we're racing the 6 hour of Indy with 6 hour of Fuji going at the same time?
That makes no sense.
I don't know what time it is. But it is Japan.
Is it
so
IMSA
I don't
or
know.
WEC? We'll talk about it later.
WEC. WEC.
We'll talk about it later. We're getting off track here.
All right, and into next week's race. I have it up here somewhere. There it is. Bang. That's not it. There it is. So next week we are at the Roval for the race for the Cure 125 presented by Castle Smart Alarms. And do you have the lap/stages handy by any chance? If not, I can pull it up real quick.
was looking more
15,
important
30,
stuff.
and 60. So 60 laps overall. Lap 15 will end stage 1. Lap 30 will end stage 2. And and then 30 laps to the end of the race. Lap 60. We will have 5 sets of tires. It is an afternoon race. We will have no full course yellows except for the stage breaks. I know that tunnel turn in, after turn 1, before you get into turn 2, there can be track blocking incidents. Do we know if there's going to be cautions thrown for those?
There will be full course cautions for only track blocking incidents. One-off incidents into the grass or on the NASCAR course or the NASCAR oval per se will not be a caution. Same as any other road course that we have. Unless it is blocking the track, it will not be a caution. Except for the stages. So yes, like Rev said, same rules for race control as we typically have here at our road courses. There's something I wanted to mention. Oh, tires. In my limited testing, tires have never really been a big deal in road courses. And in my testing, I haven't really noticed much tire degradation after 20, 30 lap runs even. So I don't think they're going to really play a role. You might get them once or twice at most throughout the whole race just to get a fresh set because you don't want to run the whole 60 on the same set. But it always comes a point of interest for me at our road courses, getting that new set, and your first couple laps are usually slower when you're trying to warm them up, and they're really slick and hard to control, especially at the Roval. You have absolutely no grip on cold tires. So that's going to be something to look out for. You're not going to go through that whole 5 sets.
You know, I don't actually remember changing tires at Chicago Street Course, so this could be another one where the tires may go through the entire 60 laps. I mean, especially that infield section, it's so hard to get any real speed. So I feel like there's not going to be a lot of degradation there. Maybe through the back stretch and front stretch chicanes, I can see a little bit with all the speed carrying through the straightaways. But I don't think the tire degradation is going to be as serious. Fuel number, I think, will be the most important. I think a lot of drivers are going to really try and calculate the fuel to like the 10th of the gallon, so they can take as little fuel as possible, light as possible, but also cross that finish line and not have to, sputter or lose any spots due to running out of gas. I think that'll be more the chess play than the tires will be.
And Sam, I understand where you're coming from. I think I have to disagree with you there. And Carl, I guess, for that instance of not taking tires at road courses for next gens. I think I differ in that opinion. I don't think they're necessary. I just don't want to run 80 laps or 60 laps or 45 laps on a road course on the same set. I don't know if it's just a comfort thing for me, just to take another set, try halfway through the race. Maybe I'm sharing too much information for some other guys on my strategy end, but I don't think it's really sharing too much. But I tend to at least take one more set to get me to the end on fresher rubber than most other people. I don't know if the grip advantage really even shows off at all. It most likely doesn't, but I just feel safer about it instead of running around on tires that are a little bit more worn out.
And I think that'll be the strategy played out. We'll see tires being taken. At this point, will 2 tires be a strategy? Because I know, especially the infield's a lot of right-hand turns with maybe a couple of left-handers. So will that be? Will 2 tire strategy be viable? Will it do anything? Will it hurt? Will it help? I think all those options will be on the table, and y'all will have to tune in Tuesday and check it out and see what happens.
Yeah, and like Rev says, it'll be very negligible, any gain from it. I think it's just a comfort thing. At the end of the day, it's just in my head. It makes me feel better taking them. Stage 1 caution is typically the time that I look to do it. Get it out of the way early and not have to worry about it again and make up what I can. Definitely don't want to do it stage 2 caution and get yourself back in the pack. And that's how you get into an incident from one of these restarts at a road course, because those are the scariest times at a road courses, because some guys that drive really well on road courses and are typically up front might get run over in turn 1 and not even have a chance to recover from it. So it is just really getting yourself in position. I think I mentioned earlier, qualifying is going to be very important. If you can get out of that hornet's nest at the beginning of the race, you can qualify top 5, top 6, whatever it is, and stay out of whatever mess is going on behind you, and then just worry about your lap times and just getting consistent, quick laps. You are going to be in a good position to get stage points and just have a good race. Qualifying 15th on back, your work's going to be cut out for you. You're going to have to dodge some early wrecks for sure, and try to stay out of everything, and then get around some cars, and then get comfortable. I think that's a real big key in any of these road courses that we do, is try to create a gap for yourself from the car in front and the car behind, and then worry about trying to catch the car in front comfortably. Just create some space, because braking zones, as we know, they create problems.
And you're mentioning stage points, and I honestly think that's going to be a huge factor on what strategy is taken and when. I don't. Richard, do you have a fuel number?
Nope.
I know you've been putting in laps, so I guess it all depends on the fuel number. I would think 40, 45 laps or so.
I can get it for you.
So
Give me a minute.
You gotta some people will want to, if you know, you pit at the end of stage one and you're in that fuel window. I think a lot of drivers are going to take that. But how many other drivers are going to stay out at the end of stage one to get that track position and maybe gamble on, okay, stage two I can pit and I still have 30 laps to get forward. I think that's going to be another huge factor. Where are you in the points? Where are you on the track? A lot of stuff's going to happen at the same time, and we're going to have to see that unfold on both of those stages. It's going to be a little wild, I think. I think Andrew at Pissot TV is all going to be busy again come Tuesday night because there's going to be a lot of stuff to cover and a lot of stuff going on.
Jared is saying 28 laps.
28 laps, that is insanity.
Which, if that's the case, the final stage is going to be iffy. Because we're going to have the caution laps that might be able to save us, but...
Oh, that's interesting. And also, it all just also depends on speed. I know if you're at this track, I think if you're 2 seconds average slower, you can save an extra lap, I think. So I know pace is also going to be in there.
Pace and your gearing.
And the gearing, how you shift, if you short shift or if you don't shift as low, stay in second in some of these corners. Fuel strategy, Richard. From a fuel standpoint, you've pushed it earlier this season. You got like an extra 5 laps or something. I think that was Chicagoland. So do you think you can save another, do you think you can save 2 or 3 laps over a run to get you to the end?
I'm not going to say yes or no just because I wasn't paying attention to fuel. I'm trying to get around the track more than just 2 laps. So without wrecking, right now my focus is just stringing together more than just 5 laps straight. Once I can do that, I can worry about like a whole stage worth of driving without having to worry about spinning. Then I'll worry about, what my fuel stance is going to be, if I'm going to try to push it, how am I going to fuel safe if that comes to it. That's the least of my concerns currently going into the Roval.
Sorry,
so
I'm just doing some calculations real quick.
But, and I think that's the very unique spin that the BRB Butt Kicker Cup Series has, is the 80% fuel. A lot of leagues, especially if they do, longer races like we do here, it's usually 100%. But the 80% fuel has added a different element to these lengths of races. We've had a couple of fuel mileage races and been able to see some of that drama unfold. So it's another one of those things where I think it brings people, it's like, 80% fuel, a faster pair, 2 stages, a chase format. There's such a unique blend, and I think that's what makes the BRB league here very, very unique. And we're seeing it carry on through even the chase. We mentioned the added drivers these last 2, 3, 4 races, and it's been another twist. Everyone's diving for those points, and we're gonna see it again. I don't know. I think I can beat this to death, but it's gonna be an interesting race.
And Jared brought up 28 laps. I got 29 for my calculation of a run. With the caution, the stage break, stage 2 to stage 3, we should be able to make it on the final stage on fuel. You should be able to make it. So it shouldn't be a problem. But it does add an element if you do have to stop, that's for sure. Be sure to pack it full of fuel before you start that last stage is all I can say.
Yeah, for sure.
Every time.
And that might even be a situation where you pull in before we go 1 to green kind of thing and just top up the fuel. But
do you? Yeah, because then you're going to find yourself in that hornet's nest at the back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say what's probably going to help me, though, is my Lucky 13 button box from Rev Sim Shop. Go check them out. Get yourself a button box where you can shut your motor off while you're just coasting around the track.
That is very crucial.
Rev's got to be proud of that.
He's definitely got to be proud of that.
Let me ask y'all this.
Lucky 13 button box.
I know y'all are in a situation where stage point. I mean, I am in the same situation. Stage points are paramount at the end of the day. And pit road closes with 2 to go. Do you even entertain the strategy of pitting before the stage break to set yourself up for a better stage? Or the following stage. Maybe it's stage 2 to stage 3, and you work on your finishing position, or stage 1 to stage 2, maybe. Well, let's just say if you're running like 12th, let's just say in stage 1.
If you're running far in the back, I think it's going to be a well worth gamble. But you're going to have to pit literally before the pits close. Because at 2 laps to go, technically we close the pits. So you're going to be pushing it, like go in, take fuel only, get back out. But then you're going to have to fuel save. You're going to have to, like I said, shut your motor off. You're going to have to clutch, do whatever you can. Because you're going to be pushing, potentially running out of fuel on that last lap. Potential.
It might not be a viable option from stage 2 going into the final stage. More so from stage 1 going into the second stage, since they're only 15 apiece. You could definitely make it.
I think it's going to be situational, depending on where you are. Let's say you are in 12th, 13th. You also have to realize the delta of the lead car too. These laps are, a minute 20, a minute 25 apiece. They are very, very quick. You can fall down a lap really quick, and you don't want to, come in before pit lane closes and get lapped, because that destroys that strategy. Yes, you get the wave around, but you start at the back of the pack of the fresh cars you were trying to, hop over.
Yeah.
And undercut. So I think there's also you got to be aware of that delta of how close is the lead car behind me, because if you pit too late, then you go a lap down and it gets even worse. So it again, there's going to be a lot of strategy. It's going to be a chess game Tuesday.
And this is where some more practice time comes into play. Like to understand what Carl's saying, what I would suggest anybody that's listening, that if you're trying to play a strategy of flipping the stage, okay, if you're in the back and you're trying to gamble because you need track position for the start of the next stage versus what you're doing right now, go into the practice sessions and figure out how long it is from pit entrance, stop, fuel, go, and then figure out, okay, how far back is the leader? Give yourself 2 to 3 seconds of gap from that time, because people are gonna make a mistake. Like, you could slide through your pit box in accident. You could probably not stop far enough. It's gonna happen. So that's just another thing to practice. It's like when our practices aren't just about get out there, learn the track. It's go practice some strategy calls also. So that's gonna be the biggest thing. Like, just how long is it gonna take from entering pit road and exiting while getting fuel?
One interesting
kind of.
Sorry, Richard.
No, go ahead.
One interesting thing I think about the Roval is how much you actually shortcut the track by going into pit road. You go into pit road, and pit road exit is a straight turn left, as opposed to all the way at the end of the normal pit road. And you bypass turn 1, and I don't know if that's considered turn 2, that tunnel turn. If it is, you bypass the first 2 turns technically. And it's kind of a shortcut to the track. It could end up saving you time there at the end of the day, though. What Richard was saying is very important to make sure that you can make it time-wise. Of if the leader's 15 seconds behind you, you're probably not going to be able to hold on to that while stopping.
It is considered turn 2.
It is considered turn 2. So yeah, you bypass 2 turns by going into pit road. Actually, 3 if you include the chicane.
Oh yeah, that would be 4 then.
Oh, so those 2 turns? Okay, so yeah, you bypass 4 turns by going into pit road.
But I mean, that's kind of what they're saying. What we're saying is, you have to judge if it's like 35, 40 seconds from pit entry, the stop to pit exit. Then you better make sure you have a 40-second cushion between yourself and the leader, or else your strategy is going to get blown out of the water. And that's where, again, the situation, where am I at on the track compared to the other drivers? Am I gaining? Am I losing? Where's the leader? A lot of that's going to come into play.
It'll be very interesting to see how some people use some strategy. And to the guys that aren't in the chase, will any of them gamble and try to flip the last stage by going into pit early? Because they can take that gamble. Mm-hmm. They don't need the stage points. It means absolutely nothing really to them. So go for that win. And then if that happens, then you have more non-chase guys that are up at the front that the chase guys are going to be really hungry to try to pass, and it's only going to create drama. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I think
we're having fun.
We're having fun. Every race that we have in this chase has a little bit of a wild card element, I think, with the exception maybe of Charlotte, really. But then again, it's Charlotte.
I mean, Vegas really didn't have a,
Well,
whatever.
I mean, Vegas
Yeah.
was kind of wild card because it was actually really loose, and it
Yes.
did not take long to get loose. Richard, we ran Charlotte not too long ago. That was the exact opposite. That was really, really tight.
We
So
also
that was
raced
a
on a track
struggle.
that was beyond hot as crap. So
Man, well, that
That's
typically
true.
makes it loose, though.
And that's the crazy part. It was just roasting and tight. So
And Charlotte
even though,
traditionally
yeah,
is.
They're both mile and a halves. They are completely different tracks, and they drive completely differently. So again, there is a element of a wild card in each race we have, and that's what makes us unique. Another one of those things that just makes it fun to race week in, week out.
Any more keys to this race that y'all would like to point out, or if you don't want to give away too much information, you don't have to.
braking zones, please respect braking zones.
Yes.
It is every road course we run, man. Everybody has different brake zones. Like even with the short tracks, like it's just there's a lot of heavy braking at Roval. A lot of it.
Slow
Please
is
don't be the
fast.
person that drives through someone in a chicane and ruins their race or
Or
their
turn
stage. Or turn one even. Turn one is usually a little bit easier to navigate as the run goes along. Those chicanes, though, just get really tight.
Those 3 restarts. That's where it's going to be.
Side by side in the chicane. Yeah, that's going to be scary.
No,
think
not
it was
chicane.
one-
Turn 1.
No, that's
I
what I'm
think
saying. The outside lane in turn one. Oh,
I think the last time we run the Roval, it was one of the Wicked seasons, and I did not have my brake set up right. And both restarts, I come in and I'm locking him up, going 3 wide, and I'm like, oh, I feel so bad, but I just can't stop.
so
and I
don't
think
be
I
the
did that
Carl.
both Restarts. Don't pull the Carl, and make sure you know you're on mute before you start talking to yourself. I did that 3 times Tuesday.
Oh man, yeah. So that's a good point. Please be respectful and give each other room, and don't try to outbreak someone if it's a battle for 13th. Just let each other go. Give some room. But yeah, with that, we'll move into who we think is going to win the BRB Race for the Cure 125 presented by Castle Smart Alarms. And Carl, you look like you want to pick somebody, so I'm going to start with you.
I'm going to. Oh, where are the standings? I think I'm going to pick on Johnny Wood Jr. He was really fast on the Chicago Road course. He battled Mason for that win for the longest time. He seems to be fast, and he's not slowing down. It almost seems to be getting faster. So Johnny Wood Jr. also in the chase, has those points. He's definitely looking for that championship. He's going to be motivated. I can guarantee he's putting in laps right now.
I did not expect that with the first pick, but you know what? Why not? And Richard, how are you feeling this week?
Adam, I saw the times that he's been putting down. I saw his lap times that he posted. He's being very, very consistent, and that's huge at Roval. So I really think Adam can pull off a fantastic road course win Tuesday.
Yeah, that is exactly who I wanted to go with.
Sorry,
That's fine. It's
I saw your
normal.
face as soon as I picked him.
It's normal. I slammed my desk. But Dustin, I don't know 100% sure, but I would assume that we're still going to
There
have
are
the initial
cones.
start in the chicane.
There are still cones coming out of turn 4. If we were to
Yeah, we
bypass,
can't
we
do
hit
that.
cones and you'd ruin people's
Yeah.
race. So we can't bypass this chicane, sadly.
So plan on starting in the chicane, and if you start in the chicane, be careful.
Oh,
Be
Wheel
careful on the
spin is so
throttle.
easy.
Yeah, careful on the throttle, and be careful of the turtles and the people next to you. And then I
Just
know
be
Jared said something to me. He retracted his message. But Jared, you better watch yourself in the chicanes. Is all I'm gonna say.
I thought something was missing.
next level is going to be the limitless in round 2.
We can only
Hey,
hope. Richard.
Jared is
We
not
can
next
only
level.
hope.
I don't know. He raced a car that says different.
We sponsored him. That's
Oh,
different.
is that what it was?
That is different. He's not an official next level driver. He is
Intern.
he's a pawn.
He's the Wood Brothers to RFK.
No, I mean Wood Brothers to Penske more so.
Penske, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Steven, you're making Isaiah jump. How
I'm
dare
sorry,
you.
Isaiah. I didn't mean. Please drive safely. I don't mean to
I didn't
scare
hear your
anybody.
desk slam. That's funny.
It was a very probably like high pitched slam because I hit it with like 2 fingers. And I'm sorry, Isaiah, if I just made you jump again.
Was it your fingers or was it your line there?
My what?
Your oh, I hit my desk.
Oh no.
Oh, I got to give a shout out to Isaiah and his team. The what is it, the Drivers for Christ or
Racers
Racers
for
for Christ
Christ.
or something. I'm glad we can make them feel at home here at BRB. One thing that I've never seen in a league, and I've raced 4 or 5 different leagues now, we have allowed them to do the pre-race invocation and prayer before the race. It's actually been kind of cool. Like it makes it feel like an actual race more now. So Isaiah, you and your team being able to do that prior to the race, that's really cool. Thank you guys for being here, and glad that we can do that for you guys and accommodate for you guys to do that.
Yeah, we couldn't thank y'all enough. I think that is an awesome thing to have, and we're incredibly blessed to have y'all join us. And you and Eric, I don't know if anyone else is part of that team, but I've gotten to know you and Eric a little bit, and y'all are tremendous people, drivers and individuals, and we're so thankful and blessed to have y'all and be a part of this.
Also, time out real fast. So, whenever I'm not here because of work, and I'm typing to you guys in chat, are we not going to get on Isaiah for doing the same thing?
No, because we like Isaiah.
He gets a pass because I nearly wrecked him last week. I'll give him that. Thank you, Isaiah. Yeah, we definitely love having Isaiah, Eric, and that whole team here. It's been fun, and yeah, like Richard was saying, the invocation's fun. It does feel nice to have that. For me, especially, it gives me a minute to kind of meditate and focus on what I'm trying to accomplish, and it's definitely a nice change, and it adds to that depth of realism some of us are looking for. So it's definitely a fun time. Although Isaiah's driving and texting veteran. Be careful of that. Buddy.
Yeah,
Just
please be careful of that.
that.
I used to be able to drive and text when living in Dallas. Ever since moving out here, and there's like hills and roads I can drive off of very easily, I'm not able to have my phone anywhere near me in the car anymore. So we don't advise texting and driving, but we will support Isaiah more than we support Richard.
I cannot stand you. Okay.
See what happens when you're gone a week. You already thought about a replacement. Sorry, buddy.
Or at least I finished the race Tuesday.
Oof.
Son of a man, he's holding the win over me. Now he's just finishing a race. I cannot
Carl,
get
I'm telling
away
you,
from
you're gonna get
this.
that win. You're gonna get that win. I think Talladega might be your time.
No, I'll find a way to lose it. 10 laps to go.
With
You
that
got a win
mentality.
coming, Carl. You really do.
You do.
You've been doing really, really
Just
well.
like Dustin, it's long overdue. And with that, my winner is going to be Mason Houseman.
You just had to.
I mean, realistically, I had to.
Did you hear the hesitation in that, though?
I didn't want to, but like it's one of those situations where like your mind and your heart are telling you different things. At the end of the day, Mason's really good on road courses. He's one of the few guys that can somewhat compete with Gavin, and I say somewhat, and that's a compliment. Being anywhere near Gavin on a road course in a next gen car is a truly remarkable place to be. So I have to go with Mason. At the end of the day, Jared is a good road course driver too. If Jamie Plourd's with us, he's a solid road course driver as well. But I can't rely on those 2 individuals to beat Mason per se. But Mason could wreck himself and his whole team again. So
Thanks for putting that
we
up.
can count on that. Isaiah, if you're doing the invocation this week, could you please add that in the invocation?
Pray for teammates to be careful with each other.
Oh, Lord.
We pray for Limitless Esports for that their drivers do not sacrifice themselves for the greater good of each other.
The greater good.
A greater good.
But yeah, I reluctantly picked Mason, but we shall see. Anything else y'all want to cover real quick on the Butt Kicker Cup Series front?
Man, I think we've been thorough about it this week. We had a good week already.
Did have a good week already. Again, all my stuff is out of order. There it is. So, I mean, with that, real quick, do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, obviously. Butt Kicker, the leader in haptics, Sundance Pizza from Wickenburg, Arizona, the #1 pizza and ice cream in Wickenburg, Arizona. Ideal Lease and Ascendance Trucks, and obviously a big shout out to Pit Stop TV for broadcasting our races and doing a tremendous job each and every week. Yeah, they've been a huge benefit, and all of our sponsors have been huge for us to get us to where we are. So we appreciate each and every one of y'all. But without further ado, we can get into NASCAR real life racing. So this past week, they started off the playoffs. I can't believe the playoffs are already here for NASCAR. But they started off at Atlanta for the Quaker State 400, now found at Walmart, something like that. Like, I don't know. I think that is a
Walmart got enough screen time.
Oh my gosh! Don't even get me started.
Isn't that the truth?
And you're expecting a wild race and kind of limited chaos. It was kind of nice. It was entertaining at times and not so at
Limitless
other
wasn't
times.
there.
Yeah, if Limitless was there, I mean, it would have been an absolute wreckfest. You
The
had
demolition derby.
you had Denny Hamlin qualify in the back and then stay in the back and then stay in the back and then stay in the back and then wreck.
In the back.
In the back. That was an interesting strategy call. And then you had your winner, Joey Logano, as we all predicted. I'm sure Gavin was very excited to see Joey survive at least the first round this year. Isaiah got to go and be a VIP this weekend, which was a super cool experience. I know he got to meet one of his lifelong idols, Jeff Gordon, and spend some time with him. So that was really cool for him to do. And other than that, I mean, I thought it was a pretty solid race. What did y'all think of it? I mean, maybe not every year to have Atlanta in the playoffs, but like it was okay.
I enjoyed it actually. You could see it. It wasn't as it classifies as a super speedway. It's still only a mile and a half. So there is a lot of lifting there. You can't just pedal to the metal, go around and around for 3 hours. There's some lifting. There's finesse to it, and you could see that. You could see a lot of passing. They had enough space to where you can make some moves, but not enough space to where you could really separate yourself. It was a loose pack type of driving style, and as you see here, Steven, you passing Andrew Tenold here for, I think this is second, actually, coming up to the end of our middle of the second stage. But it's similar to this actually, where you can see some people push it hard, pass, and lose the tires, fall back, and there was a cycle. It was kind of refreshing. It was a super speedway, but it wasn't a super speedway. It was fun to watch, in my opinion. I hope it does come back, because it does bring a little bit of that tension. It's like, yeah, you're not going to get away from someone, but you're also going to have to make some moves, and there's always going to be the big one. I think it's a good mix.
And the big one, it seemed like, if you're not including the one on the last lap, Kyle Larson's hit
Oh my gosh.
into the turn 2 wall was definitely one of the most vicious hits I think we've seen in the next gen era. I think he's had 2 of the most vicious hits, that is, actually, at Talladega, not last year, or maybe it was last year, whenever it was.
I think it was last year, because they had to put in those those triangle
Yeah.
pieces of metal on the roll cage, because it broke the roll cage and like shoved a piece of a bar into the cockpit area.
Yeah, he's had some nasty hits, and that one looked really tough. And then he's on the radio immediately. I think I blew a tire or something like that. It's like, oh,
It was wild. Also, like nothing looked off, and then all of a sudden the car just wiggled a little bit left, and then just boop right to the outside wall. Like, holy shit! What
Yeah.
just happened?
I know a lot of drivers were complaining about loose, being loose especially
Oh,
the
yeah.
beginning part of the race, and before they can make any adjustments, it was a lot looser than they expected. Whether that be, I think it was a pretty warm day in Atlanta, and obviously the sun being on the track all day didn't help it. But as the track wears and ages, it gets a new character to it. It's no longer the super speedway it was, I guess, when it first got repaved. It's its own thing now, honestly. It was its own thing before, but it was more of a super speedway style, and now it's like I could even throw it in. It maybe give it a couple more years and give it to like an auto club ish feel of it's a super speed or it's a normal speedway, but drafting is a very big thing, and you can get all your time back on the straightaway by drafting, but the corners you got to really be careful on those tires. So it could be really interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Isaiah saying it was hot and bright. So yeah, the sun beating down, a hot Atlanta day. I mean, it guaranteed it was slick and hot in those cars.
oh yeah,
And with the way it is, like I said, you gotta balance the throttle a little bit to be able to maintain and saving tires. Saving tires is a big thing. But on the Kyle Larson wreck, I know it's been a minute, but we know how sometimes these next gen cars like to snap. We don't see it as often as we did a couple of years ago, but these things still snap. And guys, we saw it on our league Tuesday night. Sometimes if you snapped it wrong, it would send you right into the wall. These things are still a little sketchy. People are getting better about saving them. There's some saving graces built in, but it's still not as forgiving as some of the older generation cars. So it's still tricky to drive.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, and I will say also, like, I was impressed. Kyle Busch has put together 3 really strong runs in a row, and that has been like finally a breath of fresh air for Kyle Busch. Like, it just started off with RCR last season with 2 early wins, and then it just went kind of a dry spell. But to run he got P2 at Darlington, he got P2 at Daytona, and then P7 at Atlanta. So things are looking, sunny over there at RCR finally. And I'm glad it's on the Kyle Busch side and not the Austin Dillon side. But
Well, Austin Dillon won a race.
he wrecked 2 people to do it.
No
But-
comment there.
And then but back to the Kyle Larson thing though. But Chase Briscoe then coming in and just ARCA breaking Kyle Larson. Like, what was that, man?
Man, I heard a really interesting perspective of that today. I was listening to Door Bumper Clear. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with that podcast. So it's a podcast on Dirty Mo Media with TJ Roberts or TJ Roberts? No, my goodness, TJ Majors. Sorry, I'm confusing him with a different driver from iRacing, and some other spotters, and they brought up the point of yes, he did ARCA break at the end of the day. However, Atlanta has become different in a way of it's a super speedway track, so they're using binoculars to spot a lot of it. And with Atlanta, with it being a smaller super speedway, their binoculars are a lot closer of a vision on their driver. So most of the spotters are not seeing what's happening in front of them, a couple rows at least in front of them, and they can't focus on it. So it's really on the driver. And yeah, Briscoe should have slowed down. He saw smoke a while before he got to him, but a lot of the guys around him also weren't really slowing down. They were all kind of full speed trying to just get past it and go
Yeah,
through
but they
it.
were also all the way up the track and even on the apron. Briscoe was still in like the middle of the track.
Yeah, it's not excusable, but it was a different perspective I didn't even think about of the spotters can't really call that out like they traditionally can. And maybe Briscoe wasn't used to that kind of situation where he was in full control and seeing everything on that. We love you too, Drunk Adam. He only tells me he loves me when he's drunk.
But he tells us he loves us all the time. So
Well, he's drunk.
maybe he's drunk all the time
No,
at night.
playing.
Who knows?
I'm playing.
Well, does that
Very
make
sober.
No, it's one of those situations where yes, you need to rely on your spotter, but at the same time, you got to keep a heads up. And the comment on the binoculars kind of bothers me. You can't tell me a multi-million-dollar operation who has different cars for different tracks, short track, super speedway, road course, and stuff like that. You can't tell me that you cannot afford binoculars with an adjusted aperture and adjusted focus and zoom for this situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a cop out in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think that's a really good excuse either. I mean, I
Mm-mm.
get the different perspective, but yeah, I don't think it's a very good excuse.
Mm-mm.
You have, binoculars that are definitely adjustable. Like that should
Mhm.
definitely have been a thought. Um, but even so, like every other driver was fine. It was just Chase Briscoe kick. Even after like Kyle Larson got spun to the inside after getting hit, people still dodged him. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
anything like crazy. But I mean, it is what it is. It was a violent hit at the start, and then he just got another violent hit directly after that. I'm just glad they were both okay.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, you have Chase Briscoe with the Mickey Mouse win at Darlington. Not really Mickey Mouse. He was actually really fast at Darlington. Um, but no, overall, I think Atlanta was actually a really, really good race. I mean, I do miss old Atlanta, but like this track, even though it is more of your super speedway style of racing, it does. I think the track is starting to get some character into it, and it's starting to be like the typical Atlanta used to be. Just
Mhm.
everyone is close to each other now, and it's really fun to watch because it's not just sitting in line and driving. Like
Mhm.
people are passing all the time, and it's like Jesus, like this is wild, and they're always close to each other. It's not,
Well,
it gets
they
stretched
would
out a little bit.
they would try to make it pass, and those who couldn't make it work got stuck on the inside out of the draft and fell, 3, 5 spots. And so you really had to calculate that move and know that you had the run that you wanted to have to make that move and make that pass, or else you were losing a ton of position. So it raced similar to super speedway. It kind of reminds me of racing like 87s at Talladega. You're trying to get the draft, but at the same time you're still balancing the handling of your car and the balance of your car and everything. And that's what kind of reminded me of, if you've ever done that on iRacing, is you get those big old cars kind of sliding through the corner at a super speedway going 220 miles an hour. It's I feel it was a similar type vibe to that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like, um, I had a thought. Gosh dang it, Carl. Oh, the
And
Xfinity
Steven,
race. I mean, yeah, I know, right? Steven's little knees ruined
with
it.
this cookie.
My wife made cookies. How dare she?
Well, it's because your knees are
Sorry,
skinny. You
I
need
had
to
to
fatten
throw
them
out the
knees
little
up.
knees insult again from Johnny.
I don't understand that insult. I think it's a compliment, honestly.
But
No,
um,
man.
but no, like look at the Xfinity race. Look at Justin Allgaier. Like he was passing two cars almost every single turn. Like his car was hooked up, and he knew how to get the run. So it was. Now, granted, the Xfinity cars are not the Cup cars. They definitely drive way different.
I
You
hate
know,
how they drive at Atlanta, by the way.
the Xfinity cars.
I do not like that package that they
I
run.
haven't tested it. So I mean, just watching
No,
the race.
not driving, watching wise. Like
Oh,
entertainment
yeah.
wise, I don't think it's a very fun race
They
to
just
watch.
stalled out. Like unless you got a severe run on the straightaways, you just stalled out trying to pass. But Justin Allgaier did a good job showing that you can make the passes. So, but I mean, we were talking about like the Atlanta race now. Like I love Atlanta racing. How Atlanta races now. It was kind of like, ugh, old Atlanta was so great. Why do we turn it into a super speedway? But like I told Carl, I think the track is starting to get some character back to it. And now the racing, it's a super speedway style intermediate track. And it's not just ride around in a circle or ride around in a line. Like they're making passes. They're taking this narrow track 3 wide like all the time. It's a great race to watch. Like the racing was fantastic, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think it's great for the fan perspective for sure. Not to say too much, but we may be seeing some action on that track sooner rather than later. And from personal experience, I really enjoy driving that track. I tend to have a lot of success and I have a lot of fun on the super speedway style track. But I know a lot of drivers do not like racing. One, super speedways, and then two, it's very narrow. And if there's a wreck, you're not going anywhere. Like you're just in it, kind of deal. Like there's nothing you can do. So I understand some drivers not liking it, but it is very entertaining at the very least. And iRacing will not have it how it quite is in real life yet.
No, they'd have to do another rescan of its surface to
Yeah, they're
get
not gonna
what
do
it
that.
feels like. But like, I mean, they could probably code something into like how the track has weathered a little bit. But I mean, I don't know if or when we will see that anytime soon.
I wouldn't count on it, that's for sure. But even in the sim, like it is after a while running in a stint, your tires do get worn out, and you cannot hold your line really well at all, especially on the bottom. So it does lend to some interesting racing at times, and madness at other times.
Madness.
Insanity.
Other NASCAR news, NASCAR teams were required to sign the charter agreement. One night, I heard that they had got it sent to them at like 5 p.m. or like 7 p.m., something like that, in the afternoon or the evening, and were required to sign it by midnight. And two teams did not sign those charter agreements, and those are 2311 and Front Row Racing. Interesting enough, 2311 has been very vocal with not being happy with how chartering negotiations have been going. And NASCAR did say that they do have the right to revoke the charters if these were not signed. I don't know if that would hold up in court per se, because these charters technically don't expire until the end of the year, which has raised some questions. Will 2311 and Front Row Motorsports be around next season?
It's a dangerous game.
Yeah.
Because you have the big man, the big name of Michael Jordan backing up that team. Michael Jordan is bringing in a lot of other just a viewership. Say, why is a basketball star at a NASCAR track? Then you find out he owns one of these race teams. I think that's very dangerous. Michael Jordan, I think, knows what he's doing. He's been a businessman since he's retired. And with the name, NASCAR's all about the money. He brings in that money. So I think it's kind of a draw between NASCAR and 2311. It's like, hey, we have this, worldwide star here sponsoring this team, and he's bringing in these fans. Why are you going to stall us like this? It's very, very tricky, I think, on NASCAR's part.
And it also puts NASCAR, in a very tricky situation, like you said, of you don't want the headline to come out, NASCAR revokes Michael Jordan's NASCAR team. You're playing with fire right there. Like you're trying to get more fans. That's one way you do not make fans. You do not disrespect MJ in any form. He has brought a lot of casual viewers to the races, whether you like to believe it or not. He has put eyes on NASCAR where there were not eyes. Whether that's just Jordan Brand in general being in NASCAR, it's on Tyler Reddick's car every once in a while, that brings eyes. It's like, oh, cool. Like Jordan's in NASCAR. Like, oh, maybe I'll watch a race or maybe I'll buy a diecast. And that creates something. You don't want a big outside influence being wronged by NASCAR is all I'm going to say. But these teams were told by NASCAR that they had to sign this agreement. Otherwise, they risk losing their charters. So now what does NASCAR do? Do they negotiate with these teams separately? You can't imagine that just because these teams didn't sign it are going to get to renegotiate with NASCAR and get different terms than the rest of the teams, because that's not going to how this is going to work. But then I don't know.
Yeah, because if they try to renegotiate with NASCAR and try to get a cheaper charter agreement, now the other NASCAR teams are going to be, excuse us, why? Like, no, come on now, that shouldn't be a thing. I mean, if anything, it's more of a bargaining chip of like they're still going to pay the same price this next charter season or contract, but there could be an agreement for in the future it won't be as expensive or whatever it is. So I don't know what their their arguments are or what their arrangements are or negotiations have been of what because they're trying to reduce the price of the charters, right? Because they're just
Not entirely.
not entirely.
It's more of like the collective bargaining agreement of the split of revenue between
Oh, that's
charters
okay.
and NASCAR is the big majority of it.
Because teams are just mad they're not getting as much as they feel they should
Correct.
be because NASCAR's just like pocketing it all.
Because I don't know the exact split right now, but basically the split is between, obviously NASCAR is the governing body, the tracks and the teams get the split of the TV revenue and track revenue. However, half the tracks are owned by NASCAR. So NASCAR is technically getting the revenue for the tracks for half of those races as well. And the teams are like, well, we're struggling enough getting sponsorships. Like, if we could have a little bit more revenue from that TV deal, hey, there's a new TV deal. It's over $1 billion. Like, just give us something to where we can afford to go to racing without sponsorships. Like, if we can do that, like, that sets the sport up for success, I think, in the future.
For sure.
If you can rely on not having sponsors, then you're sustainable long term, I think. Because sponsor money can dry up, and it can dry up quick based off the economy, and a lot of other factors for sure. But where was I going with that? Shoot, I just blanked hard. Oh, sorry.
You're too young for that.
I am too young for that. But I know a lot of people are maybe NASCAR truest or NASCAR old NASCAR heads, maybe is the way to call it. Really don't like the charter system. At the end of the day, I love the charter system on paper. I think it creates equity for a team initially. It gives them something worth value to get them in the sport and to hold on to and build. It's not quite a franchise like other sports or other leagues, and I don't think that's what we should be comparing it to, because it's completely different. But it gives someone a reason to get a charter in NASCAR for guaranteed payouts, essentially.
I feel like there's two sides of this. You have that side, which honestly is a good opinion, and you want to have that kind of guaranteed spot, but at the same time, it kind of restricts who can be in and when. I mean, that it makes it much more difficult for smaller teams to come in, newer names to come in. We mentioned a couple episodes ago of all the young talent. Well, there's not a ton of seats opening up these next few years that's going to fit this young talent. And with the charter team, I think I read somewhere, if you want to drive one of these race cars at the higher level, you need to have roughly $1.2 million of backing behind you as a driver. That doesn't count, the team and the car and everything else. So if you want to run with the big boys, you need to have 7 digits in your pocket to be able to run. And it makes that much more difficult for even smaller teams who knows what talent we're missing, because there's not the money back in that person. I think there's two sides of the story, and I think both have valid arguments. It's hard to say which way is the right way. Is there tweaks? Yes, but which direction do you go? I think that's the tricky situation.
Well, and I think that's a lot of what the teams are really trying to bargain for, of getting more money to where they don't have to rely on the driver bringing in the sponsorship or bringing in the funding to race. If we started next season now, we didn't have charters, we're not going to have 43 cars on the track each week. This is not NASCAR of mid-2000. There's not new sponsors coming into NASCAR that are going to drop millions of dollars for additional people to drive. There are going to be sponsors that want to sponsor a team that is established and guaranteed a spot in the race, not for a chance of making the race. As much as I want 43 drivers to be on the track, in its current state, there's not enough funding, and NASCAR is not giving enough funding to these teams to allow that to happen. And I think that's a big problem of it, is NASCAR is not seeing that they are a private company and they can run how they want, and they traditionally run with their mentality is right and your mentality is wrong. And I don't think that's the environment of the industry anymore. And I really think NASCAR needs to adapt to that and to allow these teams financially to survive. Because at the end of the day, I think these teams are what keeps NASCAR alive. Like, I think
yeah, if it
more
wasn't
so.
for teams out on the track, then what would NASCAR be? No.
Right. It's just ARCA racing at the end of the day. Like, I don't know any ARCA drivers really anymore. But like, you're paying, you're looking for these studs in these teams. I think more so now. So in NASCAR, people look at teams and are fans of teams more so than drivers. That maybe it's the whole F1 mentality of F1 blew up and everyone's fans of teams in F1. And again, I don't know if that's the case, but I talk to people on a daily basis around here and I ask them who their favorite driver is, and they always just tell me a team. I never hear favorite drivers anymore. I know you're looking at me with a shocked face, but I'm telling you that's the outlook I see on a day-to-day basis now. And that's not how it used to be. It used to be the drivers, but NASCAR needs these teams and the drivers because those are the names bringing people for the entertainment. Because without these teams, they're just cars on the track driving in circles.
And this is where we just don't make enough money to know the comings and goings, the ins and outs, and again, we can speculate. But these charter discussions, these charter negotiations have been a point of contention for years now. And I think you're right, Steven. They have to make a decision, and they got to kind of loosen up their stance on the way things are going because it's not sustainable the way they're operating. It's just not going to happen. So there needs to be a little more open discussion, a little more open door policy as to ideas and ways to move forward. It's frustrating. You mentioned F1 where it's essentially you have 2 cars to a team. To be competitive, you got to spend $1 billion a year. Okay. And it's super frustrating to see that sport go international. And when I watch it on Sunday mornings, there's not a single commercial. All the advertising is on the banners, on the billboards, everything there. There's not a single commercial. Doesn't matter.
It's all green screen stuff also.
Well, the AR, what did they, alternate reality?
Mm-hmm.
Augmented reality.
That stuff is amazing, so fun to watch. And you cannot tell me that they can put on that product commercial free with that kind of a price tag and be sustainable where NASCAR is struggling to find sponsors to run a fraction of that. Like, there's something I don't like it. It's a comparison that it's not fair, but it's also at the same time like, what are we doing differently? Why is this so different?
It's the governing body.
It's the governing body that's too greedy and wants all the money. Like, to be honest, that's really exactly what it is. And that's not even just NASCAR, but that's a whole different podcast idea.
So,
yeah, exactly.
There's a whole theory here that potentially NASCAR and 2311 or even Front Row Motorsports could end up going to court one day if NASCAR were to take their charters. And if they go to court, this is purely hypothetical, but it's a theory that's going on, that people want someone to take NASCAR to court, and other teams are hoping for it as well, for them to open their books. Because then their finances become public knowledge. As a private company, their finances are not public knowledge. And NASCAR doesn't want their finances to become public knowledge because then they're going to have so much scrutiny. Because at the end of the day, we know how greedy NASCAR is, whether or not we have the numbers or not. Like, we have the facts of they own half the tracks they own. They get almost all the broadcasting revenue, ad revenue, sponsor revenue for the leagues, etc. Like, they make boatloads of money. And how many employees do they have? Not nearly enough to eat away from their revenue. That's for sure. So there's a whole theory that one of these teams may end up taking them to court just for the fear of NASCAR not wanting to go to court and making their finances public knowledge. It's a scare tactic, essentially.
Another one of those bargaining chips. I mean, yeah, seriously, you're fighting against Michael Jordan and then have
that too.
Brain. I mean, in Michael Jordan, I think who said it has deep pockets? I think it was Isaiah. Isaiah or Rev said they have deep pockets, and that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
he's an entrepreneur. If they were to go to court, I think MJ and that team would have the leverage to really pull strings and expose a little bit of what NASCAR's been doing behind the curtain. That could be a very scary situation for NASCAR as a whole.
And it could be, and then, honestly, I hate to say it, but it could implode the sport in a negative way or a positive way, and we just don't know.
Hey, sometimes to create, you need to destroy.
You know who would benefit off that though? Netflix. They'd come out with the documentary.
Well, Netflix is reportedly not putting some teams in the documentary currently because of NASCAR's request.
What?
So NASCAR is maybe playing some favoritism due to some bargaining
like-
chips of their
What,
own.
NASCAR? Never.
Never.
Oh, it's one of their bargaining chips as well, because teams obviously want to be in the documentary for their own personal sponsor benefit and,
that
and
could
such.
that could backfire on NASCAR also though, because what if nobody watches it because they hear about this and like, you're not going to put my team on there? Now forget that. I'm not watching it now.
It's
Like,
just
well, not only
Harrison
that,
Burton and
How much
And Chase
sponsorship
Briscoe.
would
BJ
you
McLeod in the
lose?
Harrison Burton documentary.
Like how much sponsorship would you lose if you go and says, "Oh, we're not going to show your car, not show your driver because we want to focus on these guys." Like, well, so what's the point of me showing up if I'm not going to get my screen time one way or the other? Then I'm just going to pull my funding entirely. Good luck finding more cars.
yeah, and again, it goes back to then these teams are going to struggle more because of sponsorship issues and they need more money from NASCAR.
Just a vicious circle.
Like,
It really is.
man, NASCAR just needs to pay up and make sure these teams have enough to run each week. I swear that's my biggest pet peeve. You are running the league and you tell me your teams cannot survive? That's rule one of the league. Like,
yeah.
Give me a break.
Keep
You
the
know,
people that make this sport entertaining alive, then
Yeah.
you can benefit. Like, come on
I mean,
now.
if they're not careful, they're going to drive everyone to bootlegging again.
I mean, imagine the
Like
NFL where your bottom teams every couple of years just fold because they financially can't sustain themselves. Like, oh, well, I don't know who was bad last year in the NFL. I'll just go with the Browns because they're terrible. Browns have been bad for a while, and now that they've been
gonna say
bad,
the
and
Cowboys 'cause they can't make the
you
playoffs.
shut your mouth. They can make the playoffs. They can't do anything in the playoffs. That's different. But like the Browns, they've been so bad for so long now, they just fold and they sell to another team, and now another team comes in, and now it's, I don't know, the Salt Lake City team comes in. Like, you don't want to see all that turnover all the time.
But again, it's a different animal. It's there's not the excitement, and that NASCAR's trying to make waves. They brought out the stage race and they brought out the playoffs. They're trying to do stuff to bring in the drama, bring in the entertainment, similar to what other sports have. But they're also need to keep track of what this is. This is a motor sport. You have teams within teams. You have, JGR, but that's a 4-car team. There's 4 different teams there of hit crew, crew chief, driver, car, all of this other stuff. It's a different situation, and looking at it on screen, everyone, I talk about NASCAR, and this is where Colorado actually kind of falls short, is I talk about NASCAR and people look at me funny. It's like, oh, you just, watch cars turn left, and it's not just that. It's, man versus machine versus nature, and you added teamwork. There's so much into it, but you don't see that. Looking at this doesn't show, this shows really good racing side by side, but this doesn't show the practice, the effort, and of course our fearless leader, Adam Buzzio out there, just the effort he puts in to keeping us going week in, week out. It's not shown. And I think if NASCAR wants to try and retain those teams, retain these fans, they need to show more. We can only see so much on screen, but if you want to regain the faith of the fans, you've got to show more. You got to be more transparent about just everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that could solve a lot of these issues, but they're being stubborn. They're being NASCAR, and they're still not doing that.
Yeah, unfortunately so. Well, any other NASCAR news? Someone want to touch on, please?
I got one thing small.
I could rant
here to
forever.
touch on. It's Xfinity news, not Cup news, but Parker Kligerman announced today that he is no longer going to be running full time starting next season. He's not going to be looking for a full time ride. he's actually considering pursuing doing the TV stuff, which honestly I enjoy him on the broadcast teams as a little information guy that they have on Sundays. Like he's really good at it. He's really entertaining to watch do that. So, and you know that would be interesting to think about then, because that'll open up if Big Machine, just because I know how Big Machine racing is, and like I watched Scott Borchetta basically give up the Trans Am series because it got too expensive. And he's actually focusing a lot more on IndyCar now as well, so there's that. If Big Machine Racing maintains a full-time ride next year, I think Anthony Alfredo might be a good pickup for that team, and that'll give him a good team to race for.
Yeah, I know Gavin would be on board with that.
Fast pasta.
Number
But
one.
it'll be sad seeing
Alfredo
Kligerman
fan.
leave and not be a full-time driver next season. I really enjoy watching him race and being on a one-car team. And we know it's not funded like all those other bigger teams. And he's still running top 10 and almost winning quite a bit, actually. It's great to see. It's going to be sad to see him not race full-time next season. So,
You know, it's good for Parker though to have that TV kind of not necessarily fall back on, but to focus on. Parker's one of those very few drivers that I enjoy watching him race on the root for him. But then when he's covering the Cup Series or doing something like that, I root for him too. He's very good, very succinct, He already has that rapport with the drivers, with the pit lane. So I think that also helps, you know, the drivers give him a kind of an ease when he goes to interview them with the crew chiefs as well. It's sad to see Parker go and, you know, leave that seat open, but at the same time, I'm excited to see how his TV career could go because he's good at both of those, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Parker Kligerman and Lee Diffie in the booth.
Ooh,
Interesting.
that would be
awesome.
NASCAR
That-
needs to re-sign Lee Diffie.
Dude, they really do. Holy cow.
Lee
He has
Diffie
brought
has
some awesome life into this, like watching
Just
the races.
amazing, such a fantastic personality to get up there, and it just
The energy.
he just makes everything entertaining. I don't want to turn away when he's talking. I don't want to leave the TV because he makes even some of the more mundane passes and events. He makes it feel exciting,
Yes.
and it's just invigorating. The energy, Richard, like you said, he puts into these broadcasts.
I'm gonna have to share with y'all a clip after this of Lee Diffie. It'll be a good time. I'm not gonna do it now, but definitely after this, Richard and Carl, y'all are gonna get a treat.
All right.
Gotcha. Well, I've got no more
Looking
NASCAR
forward
news,
to
but
it.
just one very quick piece of racing news. If anybody keeps up with the Sports Car Championship of IMSA or WEC, Hyundai just announced that they are joining IMSA next year with a prototype car. So there's been many of photos out of Hyundai and their prototype car, and I've seen the meme of who's pissed off Hyundai because their car looks.
Did you say
mean as hell.
Hyundai?
Yeah, I do.
Hyundai.
I always say Hyundai.
Hyundai.
But it's going to be interesting, dude. The prototype class in the Sports Car Championship has been growing insanely. And I mean, how many manufacturers we have now, Carl? We have Lamborghini, we have Porsche, Ferrari, Cadillac, Toyota. We have Aston Martin now with the Valkyrie, Hyundai, Peugeot. There's one other one. It's not even an actual manufacturer. I don't know what the. Shoot,
I
it's got
mean-
light blue car.
Oh,
It's a WEC. It's not an IMSA, but you know what I'm talking about, though.
I believe so.
But that's 9 manufacturers
Mhm.
in the sports car prototype series. That is wild, and like it is just. I mean, Steven, you got to watch
You
IMSA and
gotta
WEC
get in.
with this, man. You
And
got
this
to
is-
get into it.
This is what it's interesting, and I broke this. I actually Richard stole my thunder. Damn it, Richard, because I shared it with him this morning when I saw it. But this is the curious part. Hyundai's done really well with the Veloster and the Elantra in TCR, World Rally Cars, stuff like that.
Is
I'm surprised
Veloster
it
still
took 'em-
made?
Yes.
I did not know. I
I
haven't seen
believe
one in a
so.
while.
I don't know if they're still made like production wise, but it's
Okay.
still widely used in the rally championships
Okay.
and TCR.
Yes. And their power plant, they're actually having worked on them. Their Genesis 3.8 twin turbo Stinger, with I guess the Kia Stinger, those things move. Now, when I drove the Genesis, I think they call it the G90 now. Before they were actually separated into Genesis and Hyundai, it was the Hyundai Genesis. We kind of launched everything. Those had a 5.0 liter V8. Big boats. We're talking your luxury brand. These things had recliner seats in the back. That's how it was with the cooler. I shit you not. These things will go 0 to 60 in less than 4 seconds, or less than 5 seconds. It is absolutely nuts. So I'm surprised it took them this long, but with them coming in, I think they can come out screaming and perform really well. I'm super excited, and like Richard said, multiple manufacturers, a ton of money behind the WEC, behind the prototype program, because they're gaining a lot of ground just because they're fun to look at. Look at the Acura's, look at the Cadillacs. Richard, you and I are racing the Cadillac at Indy. How fun is it just racing that car, hearing that V8 behind you go?
Oh man, it's the only naturally aspirated V8 in the prototype series right now. It is a badass car to listen to.
It is so fun to hear. So there's a lot of traction growing in the sports car prototype racing, and it's fun to watch because with the introduction of this GTP hybrid series, it's done nothing but gain ground and gain a viewership, gain all those manufacturers. It's going to be huge here in the next couple of years.
And look what the GTP hybrid prototypes have done to the racing world as well. Formula One, hybrid power source. IndyCar has moved to a hybrid power source now. Like it has just dominated the racing scene now. And I mean, I know a lot of us probably don't want it to happen, but NASCAR could be on that line, especially if they want Honda to come along. NASCAR could be in the very near future a hybrid power source. I mean,
and I don't think that's a terrible thing.
No, it's not. And like with the prototypes though, it's not a full electric vehicle. Like it's only hybrid to get the car rolling, and then it kicks in the motor, the gas powered motor. So it's nothing crazy. It's actually really. So if you do come to the Rolex with me, Steven, in January, if you do, okay, it is wild to sit there and watch a GTP pit. All right, the car is quiet, and then they take off. You just hear the, and then when it hits a certain speed, you hear the, and it pulls off. It's like, what the heck, dude? It is wild to watch, but it is so cool.
Well, can you imagine NASCAR, but with like a push to pass button on these oval tracks?
No, please don't.
Please no.
Okay,
I want them to get rid of the option compound. I don't want 2 sets of tires. I want 1 set.
I think it adds a complexity, like IndyCar, like the DRS with F1. You get a certain amount. You have to worry about your battery. You can use it to pass, and if you're not careful, a couple laps later, getting passed. It just another layer of complexity for these drivers.
That's forcing too much action.
I think it is very gimmicky in other leagues because their racing is not as good of a product as NASCAR is naturally. They have to create ways for racing to occur.
And I will go against you on this, Steven. I actually do enjoy the softer compound tire that they introduced, especially on short tracks, because we know these next-gen cars are terrible at short tracks and they can't pass. And that option tire has brought a new form of strategy to that. So
I just want that awesome to be the tire, though. Like, I want tire wear to be a big thing. I want them to use the softest tire that they reasonably can. Because they started talking about an option tire potentially at Phoenix. And I think that is a terrible idea for you to get into the championship race of think whatever you want about the championship race as it is, whether or not it should be a thing or not. But now you have 4 drivers, and now you have someone that might not have a great car in the championship 4, and they save their set of option tires for the end, and they take them, and then they win the championship with a mediocre car.
Yeah, strategy. I don't
think that's strategy, though. I think that's backing into something.
Did you say you heard a rumor that they might be doing that this year?
Yes.
That's something they shouldn't do. That should be so. If they do that should be something that has already been tested over and over and over and over again, and is a normal, not like we're gonna try it at Phoenix now for the championship race. Like, no, you can't do that. You cannot do that.
Well,
see, I agree with Andrew from Pit Stop TV. I think multi compound tires. If you're not going to do the push to pass, yes, it could add a varying strategy. But look at some of these road courses. Look at Michael McDowell last year at Watkins Glen. Mediocre car, mediocre team, but comes and wins the race at Watkins Glen. I mean,
He had a good
and
car
was
that
strategy.
race.
But a lot of that was strategy. He pit at the right time and was able to make the right passes. He was able to stay in front of the leader. I think it was the end of stage 2 or stage 1 where he actually flipped the stage to get that track position. So I think it would allow a little more options for the crew chief, a little more diversity to see who can do what. I mean, look at Daniel Suarez at Richmond, put him on the first time to see what he could do, and he gained, 10, 12 spots, but they only had 2 sets, so he already burned 1 set up early on in the race, and that kind of hurt him later on. It's another layer of strategy, which, again, NASCAR needs to look outside, kind of open the doors and look at some of these options, and they are, but they're still not sold on an idea. And we talk about a hybrid. They haven't touched that yet. They did debut an EV car, but with all these other programs, EV programs getting shut down, that's not going to see the light of day. It's not going to see an actual track. But the hybrid still has a shot.
And let's look at the multiple compound tires or whatnot. Look what the rain tire did to New Hampshire. That race was boring.
I'm fine with that.
And then I get that.
I don't include
but even
that.
Richmond though, the difference in the compound tires at Richmond though made that race really entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
And I agree with Andrew. It does give it a team aspect now. It's not solely basically into one side of it or whatnot. Because now you have the crew chief making really big decisions on when you need to take that compound tire that's going to be faster. But then when the crew chief tells the driver, hey, we're putting these tires on, it's also now into your hands as well. This is how you need to drive to either get up front or maintain those tires so you have the pace later. So I do like what it can do, but it definitely needs to be a small step, a step-in phase.
I agree that it made the Richmond race entertaining, and it was somewhat of a marketable reason to watch. However, if you give me that Bristol race that we had in the spring versus that Richmond race, I'm taking that Bristol race 10 out of 10 times. I like a tire that wears out after some time, and you really have to save it. It really shows how much skill some of these drivers can have. It also goes into the setup a little bit too. Of if you have a setup that is more for long run and saving tires, that I think that brings the team aspect into it and really highlights some of your mechanics and your crew guys to get a setup to save your tires a little bit better. And then going back to the driver of what driver can save their stuff for the end and when they need it. Again, it's just a split opinion there.
Yeah, and it will be. It's just kind of like the playoffs and stage racing. I enjoy them. I enjoy stage racing, and I enjoy the playoffs. You ask another fan, they're like, no, they're both stupid. They need to get rid of them.
Yeah, it's a never-ending battle, and
you're never going to make every fan happy now at this point.
Exactly.
Because you needed to bring in new fans, because the older fans, they're older.
Dying.
You have to plan for the future. So they changed it up. Older fans, they can sit here and complain, but what's happening? They're still watching the races. They're still interacting with social media, whether it's negative or positive. They're still getting the attention, so it doesn't matter. But to me, I watched in the 90s. I watched in the early 2000s. The only time I did not enjoy NASCAR was the Car of Tomorrow. That stupid wing that they had on the back of those cars was probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen NASCAR do. And that's the only time I really didn't enjoy NASCAR. And when I heard about the stages, I was like, well, that's interesting. And then I started thinking, I was like, before they even really said much about it, I was like, that's going to bring racing all race long, because they're not just settling into position and be like, okay, well, now I'm just going to drive here for 3 hours and make my moves at the end. And the playoffs, I'm sorry, I don't like it when a driver doesn't have to show up for the last 5 races and they still win the championship. Cool, you were really consistent throughout the year, and I get that, award consistency, and they did that with the stage points for the playoffs, the extra points or whatnot. But the playoffs, to me, it brings in the whole aspect of you need to be good every single week now in this final set of races. And that's what it has brought forth with those drivers. Yeah, sometimes it's a Mickey Mouse win or whatever, but I mean, shoot, you have those. Look at the. Granted, this is different sports, but like, look at the Giants when they played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. That catch over the dude, who was that caught that off his helmet?
You know who exactly you're
Slipping
talking
from my
about.
head. Not
But you see
Plaxico
what I'm
Burress,
saying, though.
David Tyree.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
you see what I mean though. Like that was an athletic catch, but that was still a Mickey Mouse catch beyond belief because that was one hand on the ball in your helmet and you have to roll it forward. It's just everything total together was just phenomenal. Like you still have Mickey Mouse wins and Mickey Mouse.
I don't
stuff
think
like
that's
that
the
in regular
definition
sports.
of Mickey Mouse, though.
I mean, you have to be just good enough for luck to factor in.
There's still a little bit of luck with that. Like
I mean, but that's like one of the moments, though, that's seen in other sports as like that is a historic moment because they deserve to get there. I don't want to get into the weeds of this because,
that's fair. That's fair. No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
and by no means am I a Giants fan.
It was a phenomenal catch.
Yeah,
But like the Mickey Mouse win still, like you could sit there and say it's a Mickey Mouse win, but you could also point it as like they were in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You know, there's still luck in a lot of stuff, even in regular sports. There's still luck that factors in.
There-
And I mean, it's not like straight gambling, but there is luck that does happen, and it's going to happen no matter what format you're running.
You play your odds to the best you can, and then luck is always going to find its way to show you that stats don't matter.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed the playoffs, and it's just like the extra compound tires. Like whether it's this is the tire they use as a full-time tire, or they do give the drivers the option, or the teams the option of, hey, here's your prime set of tires. You have the majority of your tires are these. Here's your 2 option tires that you get. Use them as you see you need to use them.
Yeah, definitely. There's pros and cons to both. I guess going back to the playoff format thing, and like I said, you're not going to please everyone, and that's a fact in every sport. It's been a real hot topic in college football of people didn't like the BCS national championship where it's just the top 2 teams get in. Well, it's like, well, what about the top 4? Like they're the ones that deserved it, and now it's top 12 like get to play in the playoffs. So it's not a NASCAR exclusive issue per se.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's why I like our chase format. I think it's a modified chase format at that, to give the good and the bad of multiple different versions of point styles. But again,
Yeah, I do enjoy our championship style of points. It's really nice.
it's different, and it doesn't always create necessarily the most exciting, but when it is exciting, it is genuinely exciting.
I don't know. It was kind of exciting listening to the broadcast at Auto Club. I'm like, did Evan get it?
Exactly. You're definitely going to have your
Single
moments
po-
like that. It's not an every year kind of thing, though, that's for sure.
We'll see.
We'll see. But before we close out tonight, just want to go. NASCAR is at Watkins Glen this coming weekend, probably for the Go Bowling something, whatever. I don't know. I'm just guessing at this point, knowing
it's
the
the
Glen.
Go Bowling
Of course it is. So make sure you go bowling this weekend.
I need a new bowling ball before I do that.
So real quick, I know there were tire tests at Watkins Glen where teams said up to 6 seconds of fall off, and then it went down to, it's only 4 seconds of fall off, and now there's reports of it being only maybe 2 seconds of fall off. So we don't know what to expect at all in terms of fall off at all. So it'll be interesting there. I do want to get to know who y'all think will win this weekend.
Well, and besides the tires, they've also done 2 different things to the track as well.
Yes.
The turn 1 runoff, that whole straightaway after turn 1 has rumble strips now. So that runoff is going to be very dangerous to use. And the bus stop. They have added little wedges onto the bus
They're
stop.
not so little.
I'm being a little facetious here, but they've got some wedges, good old potato wedges there on the inside of those turns. So the drivers, I mean, I haven't watched any practice or whatnot, or I haven't seen them, test it, but like, I don't know if that's going to be something you want to hit.
But it also, in a way, it made the bus stop a little bit wider on entry, no? Because they moved
I mean, I
it.
guess it may because they can't cut that corner. They can't just like drive a straight line now. They have to actually turn into it. So
There is an angle you can kind of get straight on it. I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen enough pictures of it. I saw one brief picture of it. So don't really know. It'll definitely be interesting. It might be a little bit different, and if we have a little bit of fall off, maybe it will be not as hard to pass. Is all I'm gonna say. Because Watkins Glen is notorious, very difficult to pass.
It all depends on how it drives. That turn 1, then 90-degree right, plus the uphill S's. You have the bus stop, then the carousel. It all depends on how it drives in the last 2 corners, the left and the right, down the front stretch. It's quick, it's technical. I think tire locking will be a huge factor in the tire degradation, because if you lock up too much going into the corner, going to flat spot the tires, cause more damage to the tires longer on. So I think it depends on the driver, the setup, and how everything is kind of meshing with each other. We'll see. Honestly, we could see up to 6 seconds depending on the driver. A smoother driver, maybe a more calm driver, will only lose 2 seconds. He's easier on the tires. We'll see what happens come Sunday, and see if people are saving gas, saving tires, or a little bit of both.
who's our picks to win?
Why don't you start us off, Richard?
You know who I'm gonna pick?
No way you're gonna pick him.
Juan Pablo Montoya, baby.
Oh God.
Juan Pablo Montoya is racing the Glen, baby, and I'm gonna pick him.
All right.
How'd you guys going though?
Yeah, you definitely got me there. I saw a Kyle Busch pick incoming. Carl, who you got this weekend?
I like Tyler Reddick. He won the regular season points. He's been, and honestly, that hole right there, you never would have thought he was in that position. He's quiet. He goes about his day, does his thing, and ends up winning the regular season championship by 1 or 2 points over Kyle Larson. He did really well. I think actually one of his wins earlier this season came on a road course, and he's been, pretty strong all season. As long as Toyotas don't have engine issues, we should be fine. Toyota the 45.
I think that's a lot to ask, how Toyota did not have engine issues after Denny
It's not
Hamlin
GGR,
again.
so there's hope. There's hope.
Yeah, a little bit. Give me Chase Elliott. I feel like it's been a while since he won. He's been very quiet. He hasn't run tremendously great lately either. He was decent at Atlanta, but
He was top 10 all day.
yeah, prior to that though, he had been very quiet. And I think he has some unfinished business from Watkins Glen of last season to come back to. So yeah, that is that. Anything else you'll want to cover this evening?
Nah, I think it's a good place to end her, boys.
All right. Well, again, thank you to our wonderful sponsors and broadcast partners, Sundance Pizza, Butt Kicker, the leader in haptics, Ideal Lease and Descendants Trucks, and Pit Stop TV. Thank you for all y'all do in supporting the BRB Racing League and the Butt Kicker Cup Series. Thank you to all the drivers that tuned in this evening, everyone else as well. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate y'all, and y'all can catch us next Tuesday at the Roval for the BRB Race for the Cure 125, presented by Castle Smart Alarms at 9 p.m. Eastern on Pit Stop TV. Make sure you tune in, because there are only 4 races left in this season to determine who will be our champion.
And also, before we continue real fast, not officially sponsored, but if you guys want to help the league out, I got sponsored sort of by Advanced Energies and Focus drinks. So if you guys want to check them out at advanced.gg, you can use code WolfXLive10 to get 10% off your purchase, and all commission that I make from sales total, not even just from the league or the podcast or anything like that, goes back into the league. So, and I've got 2 of their flavors right here. Go check them out. Get yourself some powders. Use that discount code. They even have vitamins, by the way, guys. Vitamin gummies. Joint support, because I'm an old mother. But code WolfXLive10. Get yourself a discount. Get yourself some energy and some focus mix. Yeah.
Yes, and we thank you for getting that set up, Richard, and also, I mean, making that cause for the league and to keep us running. So, yeah, be sure to support us any way you can and allow us to keep racing. But with that, Carl, you want to start us off on the closeout?
All right. Buckle it up.
Buckle it up,
Buckle it up.
or you'll die. All right, we'll catch y'all on Tuesday and next Thursday.